Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on, chess world? You know, as I always said, I'm repping for the Astros right now. We got a game later on today, so let's go. Stros. Some of you guys out there might not like that. I'm sorry. I apologize to you. I don't care. Anyways, man, we got the U.S. championships going on. So we do have Hans Niemann versus Wesley. So taking out a round 9. They haven't gotten to round 10 yet today. So I'm hoping to get me a video of that later on. But yeah, for all my people that are coming from the Philippines, I will say mabuhay to you. Kamusta na aking magkaibigan? Masaya kong makinig muli hello ulit. Mabuting pagbati ingat lagi to you guys. You know, magandang umaga. It is super morning there, so it's like 2 a.m. So I don't think anybody's up. Maybe there might be some people, but man, if you guys are ready to go, man, let's take a look, see what we got for this game, homie. So we got the move e4, we got e5. Knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4. So we start off with an Italian game, and we very quickly get into something else. We got bishop to c5, c3, knight to f6, and then we do have d3. So we have the Giuoco Pianissimo of the Giuoco piano game. Very well-known opening, and as I always say, even though it is an Italian quiet game, very quiet game, they're rarely ever quiet, man. They're usually pretty loud. So the opposite of Giuoco Pianissimo. Giuoco Loudissimo, probably. We got the move d6. We got castles by white. We got castles by black. Rook goes to e1. We got the move a5. And then we have the move h3. Now, I mean, black had the ability of going bishop to g4 many times already. But, I mean, basically white says, man, I might as well prevent this bishop from coming now. Because, you know, as you guys probably noticed, the bishop is just about, the queen and the bishop are just about two of the last pieces that need to be developed. With the bishop usually coming before, because you normally want knights and bishops before your queen. Don't want to move the queen too early, but we are just preventing, you know, the bishop from coming there. So we do see the move h6. We got knight b to d2. And now we have bishop to e6, and then we have the move because Hans does not want to give up this bishop. We do see bishop to b5. Now, if you did make another move and you gave away the bishop, it wouldn't be the end of the world. You know, you could possibly see the move a4, just preventing b5 from coming. And then after the bishop takes, you got knight taken. The rook would be sliding over to e8, and then you can always challenge the bishop. You know, this is a really good bishop for black. It does attack that very vulnerable f2 square. So, you know, trading it off isn't too bad. You would probably see bishop taking and then knight taking. And, I mean, as I say, knight it up. You have 2 knights for each side. So you can definitely come up on something like this. But we don't see that. Like I said, the bishop came to e6. We saw bishop to b5. And then we have a really interesting queen maneuver. And that is queen to b8. And I've seen this very few times. I don't actually play the Giuoco Pianissimo myself. So this isn't a very common maneuver in like d4 openings. So it is really interesting to see. Like, you're just like, I'm a slide. I'm a queen slide, bro. Like, it's just really interesting to see that queen slide. There's a very logical idea behind it, but it's really interesting. It's been played 111 times, so it's not rare in these you know, openings at all. And it is the absolute top move in the position. So we do see the move knight down to f1. And then we do see queen to a7. And you see what this queen maneuver was supposed to be doing. This f2 square and f7 square in games, as I always tell you guys, if you focus on those squares, then, I mean, you are, you know, you are placing some threats on your opponent, man. So you always want to be paying attention to those squares. So Wesley So, being the gangster Malakas that he is thinking, bro, if you don't care, then I'm gonna munch me a pawn and I'm gonna get me a rook and everything is gonna be all good in the world. But Hans says, bro, you're not doing that, son. You know, I'm thug life too, homie. So he says a rook to e2, and then we do see the move a4. Now, of course, in this particular position, bishop to e3 was possible as well. Just basically doing the same thing that you guys saw a second ago. Bishop taking, knight taking, and I mean, you're somewhat knighting it up again. But we don't see that. But you guys see that that is another option as well if you don't want to go, you know, rook up to e2. In which rook to e2 isn't bad. It's good to go. So we do see the move a4. And, I mean, we're trying to trap the bishop just a little bit. You see the bishop doesn't really have a whole lot of places to go. But we can always exchange here on c6. So, you know, we're doing pretty good. The knight does come up to g3. And then we do see the move queen to a5. And we are placing a really huge question to this bishop over here. Like, what do you want to do, homie? You gonna trade, or what are you gonna do? You gonna go c4? Like, what's the sitch? So we actually see bishop taking c6 in this position, then pawn takes c6, and then we do see the novelty of queen to c2. But if we back up, right after we saw the move queen to a5, it would actually be almost like kind of losing for you to actually defend the bishop in the only way that you can, and that is actually going c4. If you did make the move c4, then you kind of have a little bit of problems. You see the bar going down. To explain why the bar and the computer hates this move, number one, c3 pawn was taking away the b4 and the d4 squares, something we talked about before. And so you are immediately giving knight to d4 to the knight, and you are attacking all kinds of stuff, and you really don't want to give up that square. That is one of the main issues. After we do capture on d4 and then the bishop captures on d4, you have kind of a problem because, I mean, the bishop is stuck. So as soon as c6 comes, I mean, the bishop is just dead, right? I mean, you can't take here because you don't have enough, you know, defenders of that square, right? So the first thing you'll do is attack the queen, bishop to d2, and then after queen goes to a7, you have to give up the c pawn, you know, to free your bishop. So, I mean, you're just going to be down a pawn. So that is not an avenue that you want to go down. Like I said, we did see this position here where the novelty of the game was queen to c2. We see queen coming over to b5, and it is then that c4 is actually acceptable because now you don't have a bishop coming here. Black has a damaged structure, so they don't particularly want to move the bishop here and then allow you to capture, and then they have like all of these pawns just kind of jammed up in the center of the board. So it is a little bit of a different situation. So we do see the queen going back to b8. We see bishop up to d2. We got rook over to e8. We do see the rook down to b1. You kind of need a little bit of support because, I mean, you're looking at pushing b4 and then black being able to capture en passant. So we do see the knight coming back to d7. We see knight over to h4. We got the move d5, which is absolutely the 100% correct way that you're supposed to be playing this position. You're really hoping that white starts to capture and then you can correct your pawn chain and everything is everything. And we do see the move knight back to f3. Now, it is a little unfortunate because you do see the knight go to h4 and then come immediately back to f3. So, I mean, you're wasting just a little bit of time. So that's not ideal. But we have reached the point in the game that if you do want to pause the video, there is an absolute best move in this position for black to play. If you want to go ahead and pause the video and see what move that is, go ahead and do so. Okay, so it's actually a very subtle move. It has a lot of logic behind it, and then it's also kind of a way to just kind of throw the move to white to try to see if white will make like a questionable move. And the move in the position, this wasn't what was played in the game, but this is the absolute best move to play in a position, is queen to b6. Now, like I said, it's a very subtle move. Number one, it's simply, I mean, tying you down to the protection of this f2 pawn because right now the only thing that's defending it is the rook. So you really can't move the king anywhere, right? So you're kind of tied down to the protection of this square. Also, it is, what is it doing? Like I said, it is, you know, throwing the move to white, right? So, I mean, the best possible position, the best possible move that white can actually play in the game is actually pawn takes d5. Now, there are some other moves. They're not quite as good, but this is definitely the best way to go about playing the game. And this is exactly what white wants. White wants, or this is exactly what black wants. Black wants white to start to make pawn captures, and then they can get their position corrected, and you'll see that coming up. Pawn will be taking c5, d5. You would see the move b3, pawn takes b3, pawn takes b3, and then we have the move f6. So, as you guys noticed before, now we have a really nice, beautiful pawn chain, right? As opposed to what we see in this exact position right here with these doubled pawns. And, I mean, we don't really particularly want to take in either way because it is going to be strapping us with isolated pawns. But that is actually what we see in the game. We see the move pawn takes c4 and then pawn takes c4. And I mean, even though it's not like completely losing, you do have these really, really like, you know, forever doomed pawns kind of on the c file. And they really don't have the ability to really do any moving. So, I mean, we're a little bit stuck. And I mean, white's only really pawn push is this b3, b4 idea, which can work a little bit, but I mean, it's not the best possible situation. So it is now that we see the move queen to b6. And, you know, it's just, it's maybe one move too late, but you know, it is still, you know, threatening this pawn and trying to tie down white as much as possible. And we do see the move b4, which does allow the en passant, like I said. Pawn takes b3, pawn takes b3. And you don't necessarily want to allow this b4 move to come, because b4 and c5 can come. Just forever, like, you know, condemning your pawns to, like, you know, just the most horrible life ever. And I mean, you can have the ability to move bishop here, queen here, and you are hitting this pawn pretty nicely. And you don't really want to go f6 because you're going to be creating some weaknesses, you know, kind of around your king. So we do see the move bishop to b4 just to kind of prevent that b4 move from coming. We do see the move bishop to e3. We got bishop back to c5, bishop down to d2, bishop back down to b4. Neither player is wanting to give in this position. So we're going to repeat. Bishop goes to e3, bishop goes to c5, and then we do see the move bishop back down to d2. And we have drawn the game by threefold repetition. Like I said, black really doesn't want this pawn to continue, you know, to push because it is just going to be, you know, it's not lights out, but I mean, it does definitely improve white's position quite a bit. So we absolutely do not want that. We do not want the doubling of the rooks on this d file because it is completely open. So, I mean, just for the sake of not giving any ground, you really kind of have to repeat positions a little bit. So that is that game, taking out of round 9. Like I said, round 10 is coming up right now. You know, I'll be trying to see if I can keep my eye on that one and see what we got rolling. But I appreciate you guys very much. Maraming salamat aking makaibigan, and I'll see you guys next time.